Welcome back to Bayou Time. We're talking with Commissioner of Insurance for the state of Louisiana. Jim Donelon is here joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, Commissioner.
Glad to be with you, Jacob.
All right. I know previously, earlier in the year, we had a special session to kind of address some of the certain issues with all the insurance companies leaving and try to bring some of those back from writing policies in the state. But now we have another session that's going on, the regular legislative session. Can you tell me, is there any proposed bills out there that are particular of interest?
Absolutely. Let me first touch on the special session that you mentioned that I asked the governor and the leadership of the legislature to call in order to get the money that had been indicated would be available for a recreation of the incentive program that was so successful and helpful in the recovery after Katrina and Rita 15 years ago. We replicated that program virtually verbatim, both the funding, the rules, the law authorizing it and regulating it. We, as I indicated, copied what had been done in the aftermath of Katrina and Rita and predicted that it would have similar positive effects. And frankly, to date, it certainly has. We were authorized to expend in the form of grants to companies that have to match their grant. If they ask for $10 million, they have to put up $10 million of additional capital into their company. That money is escrowed into a separate category on their books, and they then have to write 2 times that amount of grant money and matching money, $20 million times 2, $40 million of new premium in the lower half of our state, below Alexandria, the center part of Louisiana, and they have to stay on that business, those policies, for a minimum of 5 years. In the aftermath of Katrina Rita, the first incentive program, we had 5 companies access $29 million, and as we monitored them for their writing over we gave 2 one-year extensions for companies to meet that 5-year minimum coverage requirement in order to earn the money we gave them in grant. And they earn it 1 year at a time, 20% at a time over that 5-year period of time. This go round, we got $45 million from the special session, the legislature, that the governor was kind enough, Governor John Bel Edwards, to call the House leadership, Speaker Schexnayder, Senate President Cortez, and your very own Appropriations Committee Chairman Sarang, joined with the 2 Insurance Committee chairs, Huval of New Iberia and Kirk Talbot of River Ridge, in support of that funding and that reauthorization of the program. We now have distributed 42 million of the 45 million that was made available. 9 companies received their money last week and are now on the clock, if you will, to earn that money by writing that new business, which should help folks in your viewing area, Terrebonne, Lafourche, frankly, more than anywhere else in the state, because they are struggling the most for coverage, both available and affordable in coastal Louisiana, all across, below I-10 from Texas to Mississippi. So that's in place. But as I mentioned, we had from those 9 companies a request for $62 million worth of grants, and we only had $45 million appropriated. So we're going back as part of our package of 16 bills that we're shepherding through the legislative process as we speak, an ask for the remaining 17 million, because the more grant money we get, the more matches is required to be put up to qualify. The more writing is required, 2 times the grant plus the match, in order to earn that money that is given to those companies over the 5-year minimum writing period. So that's one of our bills in this session is asking for that last $17 million worth of grant money that's been requested but not available until we get approval, if we do get it, in this session. In addition to that, we also are asking for funding for the long-term solution, in partial part of the solution to our problem, and that is the Fortified program that we are copying from Alabama, who started it 5 years ago, and it has been incredibly successful. We hope to copy that success.
Okay, and that's one thing I wanted to touch on is whether there are things that we can take from other states that they're doing that we can implement here, and it seems like that's one area that you've already identified, and when we come back from the break, we can explain that plan a little bit more, but certainly good to hear more companies coming into the area. Of course, nothing drives down prices like competition.
5 years ago, as I said, created in Alabama 5 years ago, they have been giving grants of between $2,000 and $10,000 to homeowners who would retrofit their home, basically change their roof out and put a Fortified standard roof in place, make other improvements as well if they desire to get the gold or silver level of Fortified certification. That certification comes with, if another bill we're introducing is passed, which I have no reason to believe it won't, with a mandated discount on your homeowner's insurance, but also with a certificate that's transferable from you to your successor in ownership through a sale or an inheritance or what have you. That certificate will entitle that party, the next owner, to a discount for their homeowner's insurance as well. It's a great program. They have now built and certified 36,000 homes in Alabama to the certification, to the Fortified standard of certification, and 6,000 of those were done partially with a grant that is doled out on a quarterly basis to the tune of $10 million a year through a online lottery, if you will. Commissioner Fowler, Mark Fowler of Alabama, sit on a panel. I was with him and Commissioner Cheney of Mississippi far recently in Starkville, that they beat Taylor Swift. When they go live with the offer of their grants, it's only available for 8 seconds, and then they're out of money. Just like Taylor Swift's tickets go in a few seconds as soon as they're made available. But it has worked really well. As I mentioned, 36,000 homes have been either built new to that new standard or upgraded, enhanced in their ability to withstand hurricane winds to the tune of 36,000 total homes, 6,000 of which were done with grant money made available by the legislature. We're trying to copy that grant program and implement the inspections necessary and the certifications for accomplishing and acquiring the Fortified certification standard that I mentioned earlier is transferable and with ownership of the building. It's a great program. It has really been, in fact, next week they're going to celebrate the 50th thousand home to be built to Fortified standards, 36,000 of them in Alabama, the rest in North Carolina primarily, and then South Carolina, and we in Louisiana have a couple of hundred and are pursuing expanding the program and offering grants that are credited with being the fuel that led to the spread of Fortified homes from the original Mobile and Baldwin counties on the coast, now up to Montgomery and Birmingham in central Alabama.
Well, that certainly sounds like a good program. Now let me switch gears a little bit to, I guess, what would happen after the last, storms. They had 4 across the, the Gulf in the last couple of years, major ones like Laura and Ida, and you had 12 or so insurance companies go bankrupt. And I understand on how difficult a position it must be to try to protect against that, but also have somebody be able to come to and write policies in the state at an affordable rate. How do you balance those two? And
Absolutely, and that is the sweet spot of what we do here at the department. We are tasked by our mission statement with making insurance affordable, but also available. The 12 company insolvencies you mentioned, that's actually the count in the state of Florida. In our state, we were impacted by 5 of those 12, one of which I had my own insurance with, Southern Fidelity, for 10 years between the time that I switched from a major national carrier to Southern Fidelity at a savings of $600 a month on our home in Metairie. Went from $1,000 a month to $400 a month. So over the 10 years that I had that coverage, I saved over $70,000. But ultimately, not because of our hurricanes, actually, Southern Fidelity failed after 2 years of monitoring by its domiciliary regulator in the state of Florida because of the challenges that have existed for years in Florida in their property insurance market. 5 Florida-based companies doing business in our state failed, 1 out of the District of Columbia and 3 out of our state, domiciled in Louisiana. Those 3 were failed as a result of not buying adequate reinsurance for the exposure they had, not for Laura. They were fine under Laura in the Lake Charles area, but Ida in the more populated, more expensive southeast corner of the state, that caused the failure of those 3. So yes, folks are struggling. Citizens is there for coverage. LIGA is there for claims, but it's not what we prefer. We prefer to have viable, solvent companies providing coverage for, in particular, coastal Louisiana below I-10.
Commissioner, one thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Of course, you're not the legislature. You don't make the laws or anything like that. But of course, you do have, I guess, some familiarity with those laws. Of course, we currently have, a very strong penalty provision in place for when homeowners insurance or property claim insurers don't pay their claims timely. Certain steps that they have to do. I know they. Last year or so, they tried to make a little bit tweaks to it, but not, I guess, substantial or to where you still have the same penalties that are in place. They're a little bit more I's and they have to dot and T's they have to cross. But what's your thoughts on whether that current structure that is in place is sustainable, or is that something that needs to be looked at further?
It certainly needs to be looked at. And we had bills introduced in this session to address the timelines for responding to policyholders, making payments to policyholders, et cetera. It was actually copied from what's in place in Texas, and we got it 3/4 of the way through the process a year ago. And then at the final point, we couldn't get one more signature on a conference committee report that would have sent it to the governor's office. But that's a difficult issue, very controversial in that everyone's very sympathetic to the victims of inappropriate claims handling by insurers. I have fined many companies as a result of our finding of inappropriate claims handling during our market conduct examination of companies for their hurricane claims event. We did get 8,000 complaints filed with the department, over 800,000 claims for Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida over a 13-month period of time. But we're working toward also tightening and making more user-friendly the appraisal process, which is in place to handle homeowners' claims that are just a dispute about how much money is owed. Appraisal's been on the books, I think, for 100 years, legislative books and insurance policies. And it's very user-friendly, informal, not dragged out as litigation often is, but not also authorized to decide what coverage is appropriate. that's for the courts. But for disputes of how much is owed for the repair that was necessary, those are subject to appraisal. We're also playing defense. There are industry initiatives that I am fighting strenuously against in this session to undo or shoot loopholes into our most important law on the books in the hurricane and property insurance arena, called our 3-year rule, unique to our state and the most important part of consumer protection in making insurance available and affordable. Also, the industry is trying to strip away the prior approval authority for rate increases in this session and go to what is, frankly, in most states, a file and use, meaning they file it with the department and use it. It's only an informational filing that the company gets and not a prior approval, as almost every coastal state on the Atlantic and around to the Gulf have, like we have here in Louisiana. Another bill that I'm opposed to, it proposes to change the election of our insurance commissioner to appointment of the insurance commissioner by the governor. That's in place in most states, all but 11. 11 of us are elected, and I'm the second senior. The most senior is also elected in the state of Washington. My colleague next door in Mississippi is elected, Mike Cheney, running for re-election. He's about a year junior to me in the seniority. The appointees, the 39 that are appointed by governors, the average tenure for those are 3 years. I can tell you, this is a very complicated part of our state's economy and the lives of our citizens. You don't learn much of it within the first 3 years that you're on this job. I can vouch for that. So we're playing some defense. We're trying to help consumers with the complexity and the challenges of filing a claim and getting inspections and payments made and satisfactory payments made. We urge everyone, if you're not paid fully, when you have your roof put back in place and you have receipts to demonstrate that you were, it cost you more than you were paid by your insurance company to get the repair done, file a supplemental claim. Most folks don't know that's available, unfortunately, but that is available because you're entitled to be fully compensated for this, what's called first-party coverage, that homeowners insurance is similar to health insurance. Whatever your cost is for what was covered by your homeowner's policy, you're entitled to the full amount of that in reimbursement.
And we do have, coming up, it's almost, 2 years. It's a year and a half or more since Ida. That's another deadline, I guess everybody out there needs to make sure to keep in mind as well, to make sure to have those claims, any suits filed if you're still having those claims before that date comes up.
No question about it. That's a critical date, and we will be making a tour of the state, primarily in South Louisiana, to make folks aware of that upcoming date and the significance of it.
Well, Commissioner, thank you for joining us. I know the viewers out there, appreciate all that hard work that you're putting in to help with these very difficult issues. But thank you for coming on.
And if any of them have any questions, concerns, or complaints, 800-259-5300, ldi.la.gov, 800-259-5300. We're here to help you.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more on HTV.